Okay, you may have seen a brief aborted one there. So technical difficulties. But here I am again. And doing it in the morning, first thing in the morning again. Today's agenda is to take that most classic of Regina walks, which is around the lake. First time I've done that. Won't be the last time. The lake in question being Wascana Lake. And my knee up to snuff. It's a little sore to start with, like it was yesterday, but it picks up as I go along. So first down Wascana Crescent, back over to the bridge, and then we're going into Wascana Lake and walk around it today. It's about -1, I think, last I heard. So let's see, Kickstarter going well after the one big day. It wasn't as big yesterday, but with one that came in this morning, I'm at 59% with 20 days left to go. Doing a featured author every day, and today's featured author is Matthew Hughes, right at MatthewHughes.com, Canadian author of fantasy and space opera and crime fiction as well. Nominated or won many awards. And of course it was his Tuckerization, his offer of using people's names as characters in his upcoming Jack Vance inspired, the authorized sequel or companion novel to Jack Vance's The Demon Princes. That boosted me a lot in one day because 2 of those went at $500 each. And then Kelly Armstrong had offered some additional limited editions, and those both went at $125 or $30 or whatever they were at. And yeah, so I jumped a lot. Yesterday was slower, but picked up another percentage point and picked up another percentage point today already. So moving right along. Where's this guy going? So I've already done the morning stuff where I do the featured author and post that on all my social media. Do this. One reason I wanted to do it early today is that I'm interviewing an author for the podcast at 11. And of course, Tangled Stars to work on, as I talked about yesterday. There's a bit of buffering every time I do this. And it's always a little disconcerting to find out that when I was explaining something, a chunk of it was missing. I'm debating whether the live stream is worth it or if I should just video these and post them after the fact, but then you don't get any live interaction if anybody happens to catch it live. And yesterday, there were a couple of people. If you are watching this live on Facebook, or anywhere, I guess, I just know that on Facebook I can see your comments for sure. I'm not sure about some of the others, although I got one the other day and I don't know where it came from. Haven't figured that out. So yeah, if you're on Facebook and you're watching right now, just leave me a note and I'll at least see it, even if I can't read it. Depends on what the sun's doing at that moment. One fun thing about going around the lake is there's a couple of places where I can point out one really, maybe 2, where things happened in the Shards of Excalibur series that I wrote, which all begins when the Lady of the Lake from King Arthur shows up in Wascana Lake, right where we're headed. And as I mentioned the other day, a couple of days ago, Wally Knight, who's kind of the main male character kid in that young adult series, lives right here in Harrington Mews, down at the end in a fictional house that backs on the creek. I always thought that was fun. And there's an underpass over here. I would normally go under the bridge to avoid stopping traffic, but was flooded, and I doubt that's changed. Bit of wind. I do have a bit of cotton over top of the microphone. Hope that's helping. I still haven't decided on an external mic, but I will get one. Okay, we get to stop the traffic here. Coming along the bridge there. Usually they delay the change quite a while here when you press the button. Certainly not instantaneous. And watch the cars go by, just like me. They come over the bridge. The ledge over there. We'll be walking close to it on this trip. Saskatchewan Legislative Building. And then they go that way, or they come from that way, but this time of the morning they're mostly going that way. I'm still waiting on this. I hope it's working. Guys, you can always take a chance on a jaywalk, but there it changed as I thought it would as I set off. That's Speaker's Corner again, that I mentioned the other day with some Hyde Park lanterns and stuff from London. Never actually seen anybody speaking there. I've seen skateboarders there. Okay, this time we're going down here right by the lake. There's the wind. So I hope that little cotton ball is helping some. Oops. Get that in more or less the right place. I think they still want you to walk one direction around the lake. I actually prefer going the other direction, but just because of that, I will walk this way into the sun to start with. You can see the lake is still kind of frozen, though I wouldn't recommend getting on the ice. That's a brisk breeze in my face. And if you post a comment now to tell me you're there, I may not see it because of the sun in my eyes. Here's looking back at the Red Street Bridge, the sunlight on the side. And then of course Legislative Building over there. It's about 5 kilometers to walk around the lake from my house. Wascana Park itself, or Wascana Center, is the largest urban park in North America. It's larger than Central Park if you take in all of its components. Well, there's some ice on this. I think they've taken the one-way signs off, which is nice. Oh, my horizon, is it as crooked as it looks there? Oh, I think it's okay. It must just be the slope of the land here. Look that way, what little I can see with the sun in my eyes, because it slopes up to the left there, away from the lake. My hat and gloves on right now in the wind. Probably I'll warm up as I go on. There's a little gazebo there that performed in actually years ago with an a cappella group called Midnight Sun. And then went to a wedding there once too. Not mine. Let's be careful here. This snow melting and then coming down the hill flows across the path here, and at this time of the day it's still frozen and could be slippery, and there's puddles to watch out for. So I was hoping it'd be completely dry by now. Wascana Lake is, of course, an entirely artificial body of water. The bridge back there is also a dam. The spillway under it. And as I've said before, every tree was planted by hand. You look at the old pictures of the park and there's not a tree to be seen. The legislature building over there just sits out in the middle of the bald prairie. They used to have swimming in the lake. Nobody has swum in it in a long time, and I wouldn't recommend it. Being shallow and landlocked and in the middle of a city. Not the cleanest water in the world. Better since they deepened it. When was that? 2003 maybe? They drained the lake, dug it out, deepened it enough so that there are places from the other side where it doesn't freeze in the wintertime, which means fish can overwater. Oh, someone has joined me. Oh, it's Callie again. Ah, yes. Geese. They're not worried about the thin ice. They're wishing it would go away. Well, hi, Callie. Thanks for joining me again. Having a conversation about something. Probably to do with mating this time of year. Excuse me, fellas. Oh. I'm not chasing them. That was another goose chasing them. There he goes again. Clearly a disagreement about something. Normally I would cut through the bushes right there, but not this morning. Too much snow and slush and ice still. It's nice to do it this time of the year. You're still getting that early morning feel. As we go past into the spring in the next couple of days, the days get longer and longer. It'll be broad daylight this time of day. Sun comes up about 4:30. I don't know what the earliest is it rises around here, but it's early. And the birds let you know. They start singing about 3:30 or 4. So let's go over here for a minute. That island out there is called Willow Island. And a bit of a spoiler, but at the end of the Shards of Excalibur ends up in the lake, hidden in the water, right about where you're looking now, just off of the island there. So, you know, come in the summer, go scuba diving, see if you can find it. For most of the book series, because it's called The Shards of Excalibur, Excalibur is in pieces, and the kids have to find it. Arianne, who's the main character, is heir to the power of the Lady of the Lake, whom she meets when said lady shows up right here in Wascana Lake. Everybody's got to be somewhere. And Wally gets kind of dragged into this quest, but it turns out he has a connection he doesn't know about as well. And the kids have to find the scattered shards of Excalibur all over the world. They can get around because Arianne has the power to travel through water and through clouds, she discovers. So that solved the obvious problem of kids managing to travel. Over there's the backside of the CBC building. Just peeking out. And then the bad guy, who is also after the shards of Excalibur, is Merlin, in a modern day guise as Rex Major, kind of computer magnate, like a Steve Gates, Bill Jobs, no, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Steve Gates, Bill Jobs kind of character. And they have to evade him, and sometimes he wins, sometimes they win. But then at the end, they do eventually reunite the shards. There wouldn't be much point in the story otherwise, so that's really a spoiler. And in the very last book, it does end up in the lake just off of Willow Island over there. But it all begins right here in this parking lot, really. Ariane comes down to the lake and goes down to these boulders down here. And that's when she sees this kind of staircase leading into the water right out there. And she goes down, and Wally sees her going down this staircase into the water, and he follows her. They meet the Lady of the Lake, and they get sent on this quest. So it all starts right here, and then she has to fight off some bullies in the parking lot right here, using her power to control water. So a very important scene in Shards of Excalibur. That's where it all begins. If you've read the books, and if you haven't, you should. The ebooks are available through shadowpawpress.com. And so are the print books, but the print books are the Kato Books editions. I haven't done new Shadowpaw Press print editions. Kato Books went out of business, so they all came back to me. But I do have new ebook editions available through Shadowpaw, or anywhere really. Amazon, wherever you'd like to buy. You can find those. I highly recommend them. 2 of them were long-listed for the Sunburst Award for Canadian Speculative Fiction. And 1 or 2 of them, I can't remember exactly, were shortlisted for the Aurora Award. So, very successful in that regard, and they were a lot of fun to write. I do have ideas for sequels to them, but I haven't written those yet. Maybe someday in my copious free time. Right now, I'm trying to write The Tangled Stars, my new Daw book, which I talked about yesterday. A big space opera, which is running slow. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It's more complex than I thought it was when I came up with the idea. It's supposed to come out in 2022, but I can't take too much longer. I got to get it in. That's another note. Yeah, it is pretty, isn't it? Even in the muddy, slushy, snowy, traces of snow part of the year with the morning light. And I will take this walk many more times with the camera, I'm sure, as the summer goes along. Pretty in the fall, too, of course. And the trees change. There's always these views out over the lake as you go along. And there's Willow Island again over there. It's a picnic spot. You can take a little boat over there and picnic. You rent it. I've never done that. I don't think I've ever been on the island all this time. They used to set off the fireworks from there too. We had, in fact, I guess they still do. When we have Canada Day fireworks, that's where they set up the fireworks. They go off, and you can watch them from the bridge. That's where we usually watch them from, or anywhere around the lake. We'll see what happens this year. Seems unlikely they'll be quite ready for that. Quite deserted this morning. Often there's more people than this. But it is chilly and early. And there's a nice picture of the ledge lit up over there in the morning sun. I keep calling it the Ledge. I'm not sure anybody else calls their legislative buildings the Ledge. Anybody from Edmonton, Winnipeg? I don't know. It's unlikely in the States to call that. It'd be the Capitol building. I don't call it the legislative building. So, probably not in the States, but around here we call it the Ledge. It's starting to get hot enough. I'll be taking off my hat here very soon. Get up here, you can see the bright light of the bridge there across the lake. One of the nicest things about living where we do is how close we are to the lake, downtown and everything. It's just a great location there in the Crescents. Another fun thing about Wascana Lake and the ledge over there, my fantasy novel Magebane, which was written under the pseudonym Lee Arthur Chane, which is my oldest brother's middle name, my middle brother's middle name, and my middle name, Jimmy Lee Willett, Dwight Arthur Willett, Edward Chane Willett, became Lee Arthur Chane for that one book. And it's set, there's this kingdom ruled by the Mage Lords, which is cut off from the rest of the world. They fled something called the Magebane centuries ago, set up this new kingdom on the far side of the world, and surrounded it with this giant magical barrier. Well, the kingdom is basically Saskatchewan. I always thought of it that way. Same basic geography, except for the giant mountains and the lake of burning lava in the north, because, you know, sometimes you need those things. Bad guy lives in the Fort Qu'Appelle, in the Qu'Appelle Valley, and there's two main cities, and the one in the north has the university, all that kind of thing. But the main... take a walk down to the end of the lookout here. But the main part of the story takes place in the main city, and there's a second barrier there, kind of a dome, that covers this lake and surrounding area. On the south side of the lake, the king lives in a marble palace, which you're looking at right now. And inside this dome, it's always spring, never winter, like never freezes. And that could be a bit of wish fulfillment too, maybe, because oh look, there's open water in the very middle there, because you know, obviously it would be nice if I lived under a magical dome where it was always spring. And from the way I described the size of it, there's some downtown towers over there. The way I described the size of it, our house would be under that magical dome. So there's a little panoramic shot. Again, it'll be prettier later. Could walk down there, but today I'll stay up here. I'll go down there sometime, maybe when there's a fountain down there, an aeration fountain, really is what it is, for the lake, and walk down there sometime. That building in front of us is Wascana Place, I guess it's called. That's where the Wascana Center Authority is. It oversees the park. There's a lovely garden in there and an art gallery too, little one. Been to many events in there. I'm currently mentoring an author through the Saskatchewan Writers Guild mentorship program. First time I did it, that's where we had our closing reading was in there. This year it sounds like it's still going to be online. It'll be at the beginning of June, so we'll see, but right now that's what people are thinking. Probably getting a lot of wind noise despite my little makeshift windsock in the form of a tiny cotton ball and some tape. I don't think you can eliminate it entirely, even if I do get an external mic, but I can make it better. Can't see anything now, so I go into the sun on the screen. There's the Marina. And canoes and stuff get launched down there. There's a restaurant in there. Nice one. Has the best deck. Called the Willow. The Willows. Lovely view of the parking lot here. So back in there is the restaurant. Don't really get a view of it from here. Has the best deck in the city because it looks over the lake. Well, if you're getting wind noise, you're getting it now. Sorry about that. Not that I have any control. This is Saskatchewan. Wind is kind of our thing. We don't think it's windy till there's white caps in our bathwater, as the National Geographic said in an article back in the 70s that I saw about Saskatchewan. Turning around, and then I won't have the sun in my eyes anymore. Along the shore here, that sort of concrete abutment way over there has water cascading off of it. And the lake is open, again, part of aerating the lake. The deepest part is over here where the fish overwinter and all of that sort of thing. There's also a building over there when they do canoe racing. Just canoes, but you know, racing. They do it over there, and there's a building that serves as the timing tower, observation, and all that sort of thing. You can go that way under the bridge, not down this one, but down the next one. And that takes you on the rest of the Devonian pathway all the way down past the university. Be a long walk because you have to come back again. Might do it at some point if my knee holds up. It's been complaining a little about all the walking, which is why I'm not. Well, I wouldn't want to go under there right now. It's quite wet. Yes. The geese don't care. It's not thin to them. It's only thin to us. See other people ahead of me. Past one. Still got how do you solve a problem like Maria running through my head because of the show I'm rehearsing right now, which is not The Sound of Music. If you go to reginalyric.com. You can find out about it, but I'll be performing in it, and Margaret Ann with me, and our daughter Alice, called Flip the Script. They're gender flipped. Men singing women's songs, women singing men's songs. Broadway tunes. Very impressive cast, and it's nice to do something. There would normally be a lyric singers concert. That's a chorus I've sung with many times. Or there'd be a major spring production, but not right now. Lyric was going to do Little Women last spring. That was canceled, obviously. A sequel to Lost in Translation, I just saw, now that I'm out of the sun. There is, in fact, an outline for that somewhere. I did plot one out. Never written it. Well, Daw didn't want it, so I went on to other things. But it's there. If I become fabulously wealthy and can spend all my time just on writing fiction as opposed to all the other things I do, nonfiction and editing and whatever, anything for a buck, maybe I'll write all these things now that there's a way to get them published through Shadowpaw Press, named after our cat. All in-house. It doesn't cost anything except my time, and I can do pretty good covers. I've commissioned a couple, like for Blue Fire, which just came out under my other pseudonym, E.C. Blake, which are my initials and my nephew's middle name, Tory Blake Willett. I did commission a cover for that. I commissioned one for one called Star Song, which was like the first novel I ever tried to get to publish. And it came so close back in the 90s. There's a little footbridge going over to the island I pointed out with the waterfall and the where the canoe timing and sailing too. I guess they do have sailing on the lake sometimes, but most of the competition is canoe. Keep calling them canoes, kayaks, I guess, more accurate. Anyway, rowboats. The bridge. Someday I'll walk over there, not today. Anyway, it was a thing called The Minstrel, but Song of the Sword, I sent it to Walker and Company, which was publishing science fiction at the time. Josephus Sherman, well-known name in science fiction circles, was the editor. And she came back and said, she thought there was I just hadn't written a chunk that needed to be there. It was kind of an abrupt time skip and some other things, and said if I wanted to rewrite it and send it back, she'd take another look at it, which I did. And then she got back to me and said, the view of looking down towards downtown. Oh, and you could see the buildings I was talking about that they used for racing events. Western Canada Summer Games, I guess, was when that was first built. She said that the publisher had died, family-run publishing company. The son had taken over, and about the first thing he did was say that Walker and Company wasn't going to publish science fiction anymore. So that was that. It came that close, because she said I'd done exactly what she wanted me to do. And she was ready to make an offer, and it fell through. That would have been my first novel in the 90s, and probably would have completely changed the course of my writing career, because I would have been with a different publisher and, established in the young adult field more and all that sort of thing. But fell through. It has never found a home since. So I finally decided I would publish it. First I had to read it. When I read it, I realized, this needs work, because it was a long time ago. For one thing, it was a single viewpoint from the male character, the boy, and I realized that it really needed the second main character. The girl to also be a viewpoint character, going back and forth between them. So I rewrote it start to finish earlier this year, or late last year, I guess. And I commissioned a lovely cover for it from Dan O'Driscoll, who's an artist in Calgary, who's done covers for two others of my books, Right to Know and Falcon's Egg, collectively known as Peregrine Rising, which were published by Bundoran Press, which also went out of business. So those are also out now from Shadowpaw Press in both print and ebook. He did a lovely cover for Star Song, as it's now called. All set to publish it, but I had an opportunity to send it to a traditional publisher, ECW. So they're looking at it right now. Haven't heard back. If they say no, I'll have to decide if I want to try another traditional publisher, if I can find one, or if I publish it myself. It is, after all, ready to go, and that's the route I will take. So we'll see. Of course, the main things from Shadowpaw Press are the anthologies. The first one that I've already kickstarted, and the one I'm kickstarting now, probably the highest profile stuff I've done from Shadowpaw Press, thanks to the award-winning and best-selling authors involved who've been guests on my podcast, The World Shapers, theworldshapers.com. Well, we're well past the halfway mark now, and I am certainly getting warm. I'll open my coat. And maybe even take off my gloves. Maybe not. There's still enough wind that maybe I'd rather leave those on. So I'll put the one I just took off back on again. Good thing there's some motion dampening here. That would have been a very jerky procedure. And maybe anyway. That's why you're suddenly looking here and there and everywhere. You can see the signs still directing people to walk in one direction. I don't believe for a minute that has prevented a single infection. It's more of a, look, we're doing something, as far as I'm concerned, when you're outdoors. But mine is not the decision-making power in these things. I mean, otherwise you'd have to do it downtown too, or for far more people cross each other's paths. But I guess the idea is people are jogging or something. Speak of the devil. But of course, when you're following someone, if they're jogging and breathing hard, they're breathing out plumes of breath, which you might walk through. So I think you're better off walking in the opposite direction. That's what I think. Nobody asks me. And it's not worth. Oh. I quit talking there because it said the internet connection was unstable, so I'm expecting there was a big breakdown right about there. It's hard to say. It's not worth expressing your opinion these days when you can get Twitter mobbed for saying something that all the right and good people don't believe you should believe. So back when I was a newspaper editor and had a newspaper column, I wrote without fear, that sort of thing. I had a message there. The YouTube one may have quit. Oh well, Facebook Live is probably catching more of it. Hopefully when 5G comes along, the buffering will go away. We walked along here the other day when I came sort of around the lake, but not around the path around the lake. But this time I'll go on down. I'm still not going to follow the path the entire way. We're going to cut over closer to the ledge when I get down closer to it. I saw some kind of message from YouTube. I suspect that feed failed. And it's now just Facebook, if it's even Facebook. It still says I'm live, so I presume I'm still on. Try not to talk to myself too much when I'm passing people.
Morning.
Morning. Yeah, it's kind of what I figured. Callie just telling me that it did freeze and then came back. This is the memorial to the Ukrainian genocide by Stalin, the Hodor, I believe it's called. A lot of Ukrainian folks in Saskatchewan. Someday I'll come around and more leisurely and look at all the various statues and memorials and things. There's a few along the way. Lakeshore Tennis Club over there, and behind the trees. And again, not a single naturally growing tree here. These are all planted at some point in the history. Oh, I'm sure some of the bushes and stuff along the coast and along the shore probably grew up on their own. Those things do grow naturally in Saskatchewan along waterways. But the bigger trees for sure are all planted. In fact, if I remember from when I worked at the city on a short-term contract as communications officer, something like 250,000 trees in Regina, and every single one planted by hand at some point over the 130 or 40 years since the first white settlers here. At the place where the bones were piled, Wascana. Pile of bones, that's us. I might cut down here just to go closer to the ledge instead of following the lake around this time. But I gotta see if there's a huge puddle or not. I think I can go through there. Okay, we'll go this way. I think. Nice view of the east side of the ledge. This fountain is nice when it's running. I think it also came from England. It's all in my book, Historic Walks of Regina and Moose Jaw, which again, I don't remember well enough to be sure of these things. One of these days I'll bring it with me. Oh, here we go. It says right here. This fountain honors the establishment of the headquarters of the Northwest Mounted Police in Regina in 1882, and the officers and members who contributed to the orderly settlement of the Western Plains. Dedicated in the presence of the Right Honourable Viscount Amory of Tiverton, British High Commissioner of Canada, on August 2nd, 1963. Represented by the National Gallery of Canada, erected by Wascana Central Authority. There you go. I'd actually never looked at that. It must have been in my book. High Commissioner of Canada. That was before the repatriation of the Constitution, and any changes to the Canadian Constitution at that time had to be approved by the British Parliament. We'll going across, go right up close to the ledge here. Can't see the dome from here. It's cut off by the bulk of this end of the building, the east wing. I believe the legislature's in session at the moment. So if MLAs will be here or here later or not. I don't know how virtual they're doing things right now, actually. I suppose I should pay attention to these things, but my approach to government has always been, I hope they don't make things any worse than they already are, and they usually disappoint me. So, you may say I'm a cynic, but I'm not the only one. Libertarian, really, I think, mostly describes me. Just leave me alone. Take care of a few essentials. A lot of stuff that government concerns itself with, I think would be better off if it didn't. They do make nice buildings, though. And there's the dome, which was refurbished, completely recovered, and new copper in the interior. A lot of work done to make sure it didn't fall down. It had deteriorated over more than a century, as I'm sure I will too. I think I've already started. So for a while, it was a gleaming copper dome. Which was odd to see. There's coming around to the front side. Saskatchewan Legislative Building. Well worth a tour if you're here. And we're going to go down through what will be flower gardens later on here to the right, which will take us past the statue of Queen Elizabeth II aboard her favorite horse. Aboard. Mounted on. It's not a boat. Her favorite horse. And this has a special spot for me, because this is a special spot for me because when this was dedicated, when Alice was 3, the Queen was here, and I was standing on the other side, which we're about to walk to, holding Alice in the rain. It was pouring, and the Queen came by. Alice had flowers for her. We were right in the front row. The Queen missed them and went by, and somebody pointed out that she'd missed this little girl with flowers, and she reversed course and came back and took Alice's flowers, and I got a great picture. I'm not in it because I was holding her. I couldn't get both of them, but I have a picture of Alice holding the flowers and a close-up picture of the Queen receiving the flowers. And yeah, it was a really special photo. Actually, it was my last photo I ever had in the Women Review, because I sent it down there and they put it on the front page. Here's the details. Yes, her favorite horse, Burmese, was for her Golden Jubilee. Unveiled by Her Majesty the Queen on May 18th, 2005. So Alice was not quite 4. She would have turned 4 June 13th. This is a beautiful flower garden in the spring. So that's coming soon. And you can see a great view of downtown from the steps of the legislature. I've been in quite a few places inside the legislature. I've been in the Premier's office. I interviewed Brad Wall, the former Premier, for Fine Lifestyles Regina when I was editing it. And then we ended up in the, not while I was interviewing him, but the geese. Anyway, I got to go to his office, which is cool. Had not been in there, in the cabinet room, and things like that. Been in the library in there quite a few times. I did actually a launch of my book. It's the history of APEGs, the Association of Professional Geoscientists, Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of Saskatchewan. I did their centennial book, and they launched it in there. 2005. And then this is kind of cool. This is, can I get it quite right? Probably. There you go. This is Walter Scott, who was the Premier who oversaw the building of the Legislative Building. And I've actually played him. Oh, I'm stuck down here, so we're going to go back up the other way. Or at least until I can get through the bushes here. Oops. I think if I go that way, I'll get my feet wet, but maybe I can get through. They came through, so it's clearly not too wet. I've actually played Walter Scott. When the Hill Companies celebrated their centennial, I was somehow asked to do this, and I played a time-traveling Walter Scott. Came to the future, talked about how, things were expected to go and how they'd gone in honor of the Hill Companies, and they liked it so much when I did it here in Regina, they flew me to Calgary, and I did it in Calgary at the event was at the big private golf club there. And that was fun because the Premier of Alberta at the time, Ralph Klein, was there. And my talk included some digs at Alberta, so it was fun. I don't think I did a Scottish accent for Walter Scott. He probably had one, but I don't think I did one. I did do one when I played the mayor of Regina for the centennial of the Regina cyclone in 2012. I did a Scottish accent, and I had to get it at the back of my throat so you can get that kind of a guttural sound. I guess it was somewhat successful, but only because there weren't any actual Scots in the audience. Those kinds of events are fun. I've done a few over the years. It's not exactly something I do all the time, but I have done some. Part of my on-again, off-again acting career. Wouldn't call it a career, it's more of a sideline. I probably enjoy acting more than I enjoy writing, but I don't enjoy rehearsing more than I enjoy writing. So when I'm rehearsing, I'd rather be writing. When I'm writing, I'd rather be performing. But they don't let you just perform. They always make you learn stuff, lines, and music, and dance. It's really annoying. Okay, here's the bridge again. So we're on the last leg of my first live streamed walk around the lake. And I'll be back across Albert, back down the Crescents and home. So we haven't been on this side of the bridge in one of these walks. And so as you can see, it's also a dam. There's the spillway. The lake is formed by this dam. We were on the other side the other day. Usually there's birds in here when it's thawed. And then of course you have a view out over the lake in that direction. Straight into the sun at the moment. And there's a whole series of interpretive panels here that tell you about the geology and end of the Big Dig and when they deepened it and all that stuff. And these sort of pylons right here. I won't stop and read them all. Not this time. And yes, I have worked up a sweat. Thank you for asking. House over here burned down when one of these did, or burned extensively, and has since been rebuilt. And of course that one there probably has the best lake view of any place in the city, because the third floor, they've obviously taken advantage of it with the big window there. Switch hands. I am taking off my gloves this time. Yeah, I can't go down in there like I normally would, so wet to cut across the grass. I don't think so. I was going to go down there, but again, that's the underpass, and it's solidly flooded. Literally solidly flooded, since it's probably frozen at the moment. There would have been a puddle there if it wasn't frozen. You maybe heard the crunch. Yeah, not going that way. Not yet. Back up to Speaker's Corner again here, where we came into the park, and back to the crosswalk. How long has this walk been? Yeah, coming up on an hour, so almost exactly the same as all the others I've done. I seem to have a sense for just how far I can walk in an hour. Okay, on the bridge again. Again, I don't really know why the Union Jack is flying down the bridge, but I presume it's because of Commonwealth Day last week or the week before. I'll wait for our light. There it goes. It doesn't have an audible signal. I think it should. Must be broken. My knee didn't bother me as much as I thought it might today, so that's good. Well, we'll see what it feels like after I sit down again for an hour or two. Certainly another beautiful morning. Bright blue sky. Still a few wisps of cloud. I don't have much to say anymore when I get down here because I've walked down this way so many times. This is Angus Boulevard. As I said, whoever Angus was, he's got Angus Boulevard, Angus Crescent, and Angus Street, so he's well represented in Regina's street names. This is Leopold Crescent up here. We go down the alley to our crescent, and we're almost there. And here's Angus Crescent. Having school again down there. Okay. Close enough. Thanks for watching.